Hey guys, today I have for you a game in my most played tank, the FV4202. This tank is honestly such a slept on tank. It's not like insanely great, but it's just insanely fun and reliable. It was a tank that I believe was one of my first tier 10s. I don't know if it was my first. I think that goes to the E5, but back when the Chisel contract came out, if you guys remember that time, when it first released, the mercenary contracts were also nation locked. And so because the Chisel was made of American and British parts, and it was also heavies and mediums, the British and American heavies and mediums were my first tier 10 grouping of tanks that I got while grinding the Chisel. And so I played a lot of games in those tanks. And to this day, the Conqueror was my most played tank because it has 3 tanks off of it, and because, again, I was grinding the contract. But recently, I believe, like maybe last year, I finally played enough for the FV4202 to take that place. And I'm happy about that. I'm kind of okay with it because the 4202 used to be my favorite tank until the took and the 5.1 came out and the 114 SP2 even and the 113 got buffed. But regardless, this is such a solid and phenomenal tank. You have obviously the good gun depression of British tanks. You have a unique vehicle too that doesn't really fit the norms. If you fight a Centurion Action 10, right? Its upper plate is not good enough to really stand on its own, but this thing's is. But that's because instead of its upper plate being weak, which it's got like a very shallow hull, its turret ring is weak. And not a lot of people really know about that, so you can kind of get away with it for the most part. Of course, you'll fight vehicles or people who do know where to shoot this thing, and its face is kind of weak too, and all that jazz, but it's very fun. And you have Hesh. And while I can understand why that might be a downside, nice blind fire there. First shots off, we get 1200 damage on the 705A while we tried to shoot at that E5 again. But we're just going to sit in this position and just do as much as we can from here because nobody's in the south and our team's on the north and they don't really have a fight going on there. But as I was saying, having Hesh Premium does put you at a disadvantage of not having a regular premium round. And something like a Shitbarn or a Death Star, which, if you don't know, those are the nicknames for the FV4005 and the FV215B183, respectively. But those tanks have 310 standard AP, so their Hesh rounds aren't downsides to them, because 310 standard AP is enough to go through E100s and Mouse's faces and Type 5s. This thing obviously doesn't get that, and it's APCR, which is fantastic, love it. And you can go through those vehicles, you just need to aim properly. But we're gonna just use our standard as much as we can, and I don't really have that much Hesh rounds because of it. This thing does hold a lot of rounds. You can see we just went under 50 standard rounds. We have 12 Hesh, and we have already fired 8 penetrating shots and a few that missed. So we do get to hold a lot of ammunition, so at least you don't have to worry about that like something on a Super Conk. But yeah, Hesh is fun and all, but I do see it being a downside in a lot of scenarios as well when fighting vehicles where a premium round, you know, like the Action 10's heat round, would come in handy. But we've already done 4,000 damage this match, and it's 9-8. And we've just been really sniping out at some misplays the enemy team's doing. Shitbarn misplayed. We moved positions because I realized I could be spotted and I would be out in the open, really. So I went to this hill so that the Chisel below me doesn't get to easily spot me up in that bush. And so that I have protection from the south, because in that other position, you're quite open to the south. You just have to rely on not being spotted. So instead of relying on not being spotted, I'll just play on this ridge instead and farm the 705A and the tank destroyer, who decided it was a good idea to drive out in the open. And so this tortoise is crawling towards under the ridgeline, but luckily I still have shots on him, but I don't think I will anymore. And the chisel makes an aggressive play into my old position, which I do not like. I do not like that one bit. I've done 6,000 damage, and I've somehow spotted from here 1,200 damage. So I see I'm going to take my opportunistic shot at the chisel. I do notice it is 6-6, and my team is mainly on the hill. And now I realize what I have to do is get forward a little bit so that I can hide from Arty, who's shooting at me, and sort of have a more defendable position if the chisel does rush me again. Down below, hopefully, other people's guns. And we do have a heavy tank in the south, so I'm not really worried about that anymore. And this E5 is also deciding, or he thought it was safe enough for him to come out into the lake, but it was not. I put a bunch of rounds at him, and before he can get into the lake divot and to quote-unquote safety, he is killed by a Ruthless. Now the chisel did go back up from where he was, and I'm going to just rush him now, because now I need him out. I need him gone. And luckily he misses his first round, and I'm hoping people from the hill do get a shot off. They do get a shot off, and I somehow don't pen that side, and then I ram him poorly. That was a poor decision. I high roll but doesn't kill, and there he goes. IS-4 got him from either a hill or down south. I don't know where the IS-4 is. But now we've done 49 damage, and there's 4 tanks left alive, and 2 of them are artillery. And all we've done really was sit in the, you know, C3 or C5 area and did as much sniping as we could, and we somehow finessed a shot onto the A-groove from here. And we could have done it again if he didn't get clipped out by the Kronvon. But now we're at 9108. And I do load Hesh. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, obviously I could have a 10,000 damage game here. But was that an impressive 10,000 damage game? I mean, surely I used my map knowledge to my advantage. I moved positions when I had to. I used hill coverage when I could. And I'm going to miss the first round on the Arty. And if I get 10,000 damage, is it because of Arty's 2.0's HP increase? And I'd have to say, no. If I hit these rounds, which I'm not, I missed the first 2, and then the third one somehow doesn't do any splash damage. That round right there doing 459, which that tank, I believe, would have had 540 HP. I would have had enough, I believe, to just get to 10k with double heshing these artilleries, even pre 6.0. That's what I like to tell myself. But we'll never know, because that's not what happened. And so we're at 9940 now, and I still have Hesh loaded for a Batchat artillery, and somehow the Conqueror died. There was a Conqueror up on the hill, and I don't remember when he died, or didn't look at when he died, so I thought there was still, you know, the Conqueror was still alive, and I could maybe get 11,000 damage because of Arty 2.0. But instead, we get just shy of it at 10,889 damage with 3,200 spotting damage, all in the matter of however long that took. 10 minutes. 1999 base XP couldn't quite give me the 2,000 base XP, but 10,000 damage in a tank with standard APCR and premium Hesh, and not a big gun, a 105mm gun. And I'm very proud of this because it is my first medium tank 10,000 damage. My previous 10,000 damages are on the channel. We have the Super Conch, we have the Lehman Russ. The 114 SP2 review has a 11,000 damage game, and the other vehicles were a 780 and Badger. And so for this to be my first medium tank, 10,000 damage, leaves only one tank class left to do 10,000 damage in. Is it possible to do 10,000 damage in a light tank? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I do have to play some light tanks in order for that to happen, which I rarely do, but I hope you enjoyed the 10,000 damage game today, because I know I did, and thank you, Arty 2.0, for giving me the extra damage, right? I don't like to thank Arty very much, but I suppose I can't say that without Arty 2.0, I would not have gotten nearly 11,000 damage. I probably would have gotten 10k, but not nearly 11,000. Either way, I will have some reviews out for you guys next week, so stay tuned for those, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.